Hello, and welcome back to the TheRoughMixPodcast, episode 15. Today, you got myself, the host, Esteban, a.k.a. Trunks. We've got Eli, not going to throw his government, even though you can see it on the screen. But it's Eli, because he didn't change it. It's Eli. It's Eli Hooligan Beats. We got Vic. That's kind of weird, but it's all right. And then we got on the right below me, there's Jordan in the corner. A.k.a. Coach Koopa. And then we've got someone special that is going to be on this episode featured, but he also will be having an interview later on. But this is Jannar. Okay, so we've talked about him on past episodes as well. So today's episode is pretty much going to be talking about the best vocal chain that we our own.
I wouldn't say best. Just
I don't know. Our own
vocal chains.
I'm saying our own. Not the best. I'm saying our own each vocal chain. Don't ever interrupt me again.
One of our own vocal chains. Because I have
our own vocal chain. Look, whatever you want to call it. Look, all right. You know what? It's good. Good thing you're first, so we can clown you. All right. First up, we got Vic. He's gonna we're all gonna just pretty much talk about our favorite vocal chains that we use currently or that we started off with, however. But Vic's gonna go ahead first.
All right. So this is a vocal chain. Just so everyone knows, we all have like a Pro Tools session up on our computers. I'm going to read you guys like the exact fucking plugins. All right. So this song specifically is for Eric. Shout out, Eric. So what I always start with on my vocal chain, I always start with compressor before EQ. Always, every time. And I usually put the 1176. I'm not going to say what exact settings, but I always put the 1176. And then there's usually a certain ratio I like to start with. And then my second one on this chain, I have the Ssl Eq, and it is from, this is the Waves one. Yeah, this is the Waves Ssl E-channel EQ. And then after that, I have it running through a de-esser. It's just the Waves de-esser. And then this time I did a different compressor. I used something new. I used the API 2500 compressor, which was pretty fire. I had like some color. And like I always go compressor, EQ, de-esser, and then compressor, EQ, and de-esser again. And the first compressor and EQ is the subtractive one. And the second one is always the one that's adding color or I'm adding EQ. So then on this EQ, I love the API 550B, but on this one, I actually use the 550A. So, I did a little twist on myself. And then I did the de-esser again. And then I always put some sends and shit like that, like a reverb, and then a modulation going into a flanger, which is the meta flanger from Waves. And then I parallel compress my vocals with the same first fucking vocal chain. I put the 1176, the SSL, and the de-esser, but I nuke it, and then I put the send on unison. I put pre-fader, and then I mix it in with the fader from the actual send. It makes sense if you guys know what I'm talking about, like the vocabulary, it'll make sense, but we'll also show some videos, but this is just one of many. And then I'll let these guys go, and then we can probably talk about why we use these ones.
I was going to say, let me correct you first. I think you mean unity, but you said unison. So
I said unison?
You said unison.
I said unison. I meant unity.
Yeah, I know what you were saying. I just want to clear it up just in case anybody got confused.
Yeah.
But you said I had a question. You said you used two de-essers? One before you?
Yeah. So like, all right. So I use one de-esser that like takes like the harshest frequency. Yeah. And then I use a second de-esser that hits like the hella high frequencies that our ears don't really hear that much, but it's a super, super high one that it barely hits. But that one also kind of de-harshes the vocal. So I usually do two. And yeah.
All right, sounds good. I'll go ahead and start. So I use the one I'm about to tell everybody is like the one I started off with because of when I started in school. So the first thing I throw on there, or I'm not going to use the stock plugins, but stock plugins are, it's stock. It's going to be free. It's like you don't got to worry about paying it for anything, I still think the EQ in Pro Tools is like one of my favorite EQs. I still think it's sick. That one and the one in FL Studio is sick.
Well, the Pro Tools EQ is hella famous. It's like the most accurate, non-linear phase type EQ.
Okay, he had to throw in the big words. But the first thing I throw in now, like, okay, I'll just give it to now. So it's the F6 real time. Actually, no, I stopped using the RTA, the real time analyzer, because I wanted to stop looking at the graph and just go by ear. Because I know a lot of engineers like go by ear. They don't like seeing anything. Like they don't like to see visually the graph of the frequencies. They like to just do it all with just their ear, not seeing a graph pretty much. So I'll do the F6, no art, the stock one, the regular F6. This is all waves. There might be, no, I think that's everything's waves. I can't really think because I don't have Slate right now. I'll probably get that eventually, but waves. Also another thing that Vic didn't bring up, but that I want to talk about is we also all recorded with the Universal Audio Aero. So we all already come as we're tracking out artists. Well, this is of course if you're recording someone, but we all pretty much record all our own like sessions. So we're not getting sent mixes usually. Well, now Vic and Eli are, because the whole pandemic's going on, so they get mixes sent to them. But when we record, at least for myself, I use the Neve preamp. It comes with the Aero. It came already, so I use the Neve. Go ahead. I'll let you go ahead.
I thought it doesn't even come with the package anymore, though.
What?
Yeah, I know, because at TrueTop they don't. One of them doesn't have it. Like they got it right when it ended. They get the Manly now, but they don't get the Neve. But you do get hella shit for UA. You get hella shit.
It's like all those companies. It just changes up, but you get some, but not everyone got what we got. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so for me, the way I record in the UA, just because I didn't pay for any plugins from UA. I just got the Aero from school. So the Aero from school came with the Neve, and it came with the LA2A and 1176. So I use the Neve and the LA2A as the Neve on my Unison plugin for the preamp, and then the plugin I use LA2A. So I recorded with those two printed on. That's my first thing I do, because obviously you need to record the vocals. So I recorded with those two on, and then so with that being said, when I do compress, I don't compress hard at all, because when I'm already compressing on the Aero, I'm already compressing like 5 to 7 dB reduction pretty much, and then I'll go ahead and throw on. The first thing I throw on is, I'm opposite of Vic. I always EQ before I compress. The reason why is because my first semester in school, the way my teacher explained it to me, shout out Scott, he said he always does subtractive EQ first because he wants to tame everything first. He wants to tame all the transients, any of the harshness, tame that down first before you bring it up with the compressor and you enhance it with the compressor. So he likes to tame it down and then compress it. Or use an EQ attainment, then use a de-esser, and then compress. So that's the steps I've used. So I use the F6 EQ, and then I'll go ahead and use the Waves de-esser. I've been messing around with the Renaissance de-esser because I've heard a lot of people talk about it. So I use those two kind of off and on. And then the compressor I use, honestly, it depends on the song. If it's a very in-your-face, aggressive rap song or something, I'll put on a CLA 3A. And then if it's a kind of like okay, I was gonna say someone, but I don't want to say it because I'm not gonna say it. So what I do use though is I usually use the Renaissance compressor. I use RVox, but I like to use I like to use weird stuff that like I don't see people using. So like Vic said it, like the API 2500. I feel like a lot of people don't really use it. A lot of people use 1176 LA2A. And I can't even think about and RVox. That's like the top 3 I think that everybody uses, and the CLA 3A pretty much like top 4 that everybody uses. So I like to use the API 2500, and then I'll mess around and use the H comp. I've used that like a few times. I don't really use it. I know Eli is a big fan of it, but I haven't used it that much. I've only used like on two songs. So I'll use a EQ, F6, then I'll go ahead and use a de-esser, and then I'm gonna just throw in the API 2500. And then after that, then I'll do my additive EQ, which I'll just, honestly, a lot of times I use the stock one just because I don't know why, like, it's just easy to me. I just use the stock one and then I'll boost the highs. I can't think of the real curve. Okay, what is the curve that they showed us in school? I cannot remember the name. I can't remember it.
Munson or Bell?
No, but it's
like the Munson curve.
Oh, the Munson. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Is it the Munson curve?
Oh wait, no.
Baxendale?
Fletcher Munson curve it's a Baxendale curve. The Fletcher Munson curve is like the perceivedness of the frequencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I use the Baxendale curve. Pretty much what it is you put one of your bands all the way to the 20K. You'll raise it with the bell and then raise it, like, honestly boost it like 10 dB at first, and then widen up the band of that Q. Widen up the Q of that band. Oh my God. Widen up the Q of the band. And then, like, I like to let it rise around 6K. So from 6K up, it's sort of gradually rising. And that way I'll boost it to, like, I always boost 10K or like 10 dB first, and then I'll kind of bring it down and see where I need to go. I've never really had to use more than like 6 dB of gain reduction, or 7 pretty much. I used to pretty much around there. And then that's pretty much all I do, really. Sometimes if it's too harsh, I'll throw another de-esser on there. And then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll literally just put a RVox, and literally just to like glue it together, I guess, kind of thing. Like, just everything I just did, it kind of glues it together.
I was gonna say, yeah. I actually learned this one from Eli. That for the RVox, I usually end it on my chain, and I put the RVox, and I put the gate on there for like the noise and shit.
Yeah.
I started using that until I got the Slate shit. I've been using like their gates just because I got it new, so I've been trying it out. But the RVox is fire.
Yeah, I don't use the gate thing because Eli never told me the sauce, but it's all right. So I just put the RVox at the end and just glue it, and I'll only let it do a gain reduction of like 2, maybe, like barely tapping it, so you barely seeing it, and then that's pretty much all I do for the straight up vocal chain on itself. And obviously, if you're recording autotune rappers, I'll put it autotune first, and then I'll do everything. And I think we could talk about autotune like maybe later on in another episode or something. Like, that's something we could probably talk about. I never thought about it.
I was gonna say special stuff, and like Vic got like touched on sends, but he was like obviously saying like that's later episodes. I think sends and everything we'll get into. If you guys know about all this stuff, you probably already know about what sends are, but that's a whole different.
Yeah, no, we'll do time effects, time-based processing, more into like the sends and the effects and stuff like that in different podcasts. But today's just vocal chain, straight up, leave it basic, and then we'll go more in depth into our sends and all that. So actually, next I'm gonna go ahead and let Jannar. He is an artist. Do not say your name, Jannar. Okay, don't say your name. But he's an artist, and he actually records himself, and he also mixes. So he's someone who went to our school, and yeah, very talented young man. That's all I'm gonna say. Go ahead.
All right, so thank you for the beautiful introduction, by the way. So how I start off my vocal chain as an artist. Hold on, let me take out these aligners because fucking sound weird. All right. So how I'll start off my vocal chain, for me, I'll put autotune at the top because autotune will bring out like certain frequencies in your voice that aren't natural in a way. And that being said, I'll put my EQ under that to tame those frequencies and to make sure everything is a lot smoother than how it would sound if everything just sounded a lot like futuristic and robotic and shit. So with my EQ, with your EQ, you got to be like real careful because a lot of people want to get that crispy sound like right away. And that would mean like boosting your higher frequencies around like 8K, 12K, cutting a lot of low frequencies, but you got to be real gentle with like how you cut certain frequencies. I learned recently that like how I used to record with my UA is I would keep my low pass frequency on. Low pass, right?
High pass.
High pass. I would keep my high pass on. But one of my friends had me up, his name is Drew, and he was telling me, it was like in his advanced mixing class, they told him like to like not fuck with any of the, like to turn that off and do everything after. Say you want to capture your vocal in the rawest form possible, like the most raw form that you can possible before you do anything. So, and it might sound like very slight and you might not notice it right off the back, like whether it's on or not. But the end product you'll definitely be able to tell on the end product. Next, I used a de-esser after my EQ. Pretty much I'm a product of what Trunks has like taught me, and he's been my engineer for like the past year pretty much, and I peep a lot of game from him. So the de-esser that I use is the de-esser from Nectar. A lot of engineers don't really fuck with Nectar because like it because it can pretty much do a lot of shit like without you having to do much work, but I don't use it for anything other than a de-esser. It can show you like pretty much the analyzer. If you ever turn on your analyzer from your whatever EQ you use, it shows that as a de-esser, so you can pull it and push it from whatever frequency that you want to cut out or push down. After that, I'll use the API for another EQ, and I'll just boost some highs around 12K because I realized that 12K is like the sauce pretty much in for boosting your high end. And then to end it, I'll just put on another compressor. I use H-comp for my vocals, like for the vocal chain. And I know they said they were going to talk about the sends later, but just to put this in your mind, like if you want to add some extra high end to your vocals and you just really, you don't want to boost it to the point where it's like, it hurts, like it's like a ringing in your ear. If you know about this already and you put a parallel compression on your vocal and then you smash the fuck out of it, I'm not sure if I can cuss on here, but if you just smash it and then put an EQ on that send and cut out all the lows and just parallel compress the high, like it'll give you a pretty nice sound. So yeah, experiment with that, try that out. Other than that, that's pretty much my vocal chain.
That was very good.
I was gonna say, like, we should have a video on like parallel compression because I feel like that is like a huge like sauce.
Yeah,
like you can do it for like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, in the future, we're gonna be doing tutorials where it's maybe me and Vic, me and Eli and Vic, or just Eli, or just me, or just Jordan. You know, like however the scenario is. But we're gonna definitely go ahead and show everybody our screen and actually capture how we record, how we track our mixing template, or something like simple for everybody to learn, like how to actually use parallel compress, how to make a send, how to, you know, stuff like that. That everybody, I think, how to make a Vox bus. You know, that's a pretty good one. A necessity actually. So I think all those, all that Jannar said is honestly, it's kind of like pretty much like me. You know, we have a certain, like he uses Nectar. I don't use Nectar because I don't have it. But pretty much we have the same chain because yeah, he's right. I mean, I was an engineer for like a year, and then he wanted to start doing. He cut me off because he doesn't like me anymore, and he just took everything I taught him and and then he put it against me.
That's not true.
Yo. What I was gonna say is I'm gonna like, okay, this is from George. All right, this right here, this quote is from George, but like it's the best way I can like explain this. It's like, remember how he said how like all these plugins and stuff, a compressor is like a toolbar. It's like tools. It's like your tools. You know, a hammer is a fucking hammer. Doesn't matter what brand it is, but some people like specific brands because they just like the special taste, or they've been using that one for a while, or some have like some special tricks that other ones don't. Like all that stuff, like wrenches and like, you know, it's all the same stuff, but there's different versions and different reasons why people use those versions. That's exactly like plugins. You don't need to have all the same plugins. You can pretty much almost do the same thing. Almost, not always.
No, yeah. There's also like pretty much, yeah, like it's exactly the same thing. So every like hammer, maybe one hammer has rubberized grip or something, and then one of them just has a straight rubber. You know, it's the same tool, but it has a certain textures that, like very much like that, like certain textures. I didn't even mean to, but it has a certain texture to it that when you put that plugin in, it just does something. Like I've heard from Lou Diaz. I know me and Vic watched that video like 20 times, how to get the low end right, you know. waves one. I actually I would recommend that video for everybody to watch. It's a Lou Diaz, how to get the low end right in hip hop or something like that. You'll find it. Just look up waves Lou Diaz. It's one of the first ones, and he pretty much talks about how just by putting in the plugin by itself, he hears something change, like the tone of something just happens. So I know, and then I didn't really understand that until I soloed out a vocal, and then you just turn it on, and maybe to the regular ear you can't hear anything, you know. But when you've been doing it long enough, especially like him, he's been doing it like plus 30 years, you know, he hears everything, you know. So
see, actually, I'm just gonna add to this. He's like a rare species on Earth where he has this crazy, it's not a disability or something, but it's like something not wrong with him, but there's something different in his brain. You know how there's people who see colors? Well, he sees frequencies. I forgot what it's called. He has a whole interview on it, but it's a real thing. And it's like 6 or 7% of the world have it. And it's like, that's crazy. It's hella sick, actually.
Yeah. So when we're telling you all this, like the plugins, like I would go ahead. I mean, if you have the plugins, I would go ahead and use them. I wouldn't just, what plugin are they using? I'm gonna write it down and buy every single one they're talking about. Like, do your research, you know, look everything up, and then you go ahead and do your conclusion on what you want to get. A lot of these come in bundles, you know, so go ahead and like by all means get a bundle and try them all out if you want. But also make sure. When I first started, I didn't buy my first plugin on Pro Tools for the first 2 or 3 months, and then me and Eli both went in and got the gold bundle. That was the first thing we bought, was a gold bundle, because it came with SSL for free at that time. So we got SSL bundle and the gold bundle, and we got like a ton of plugins. And ever since that, we started just like messing around with everything. You know, but those first 30 months, we used all the stock ones, and we started to learn how to use the stock Pro Tools plugins, or whatever you want, whatever DAW you're using. There's all stock stuff, and you just learn how to master them. And then when you get, it's like Vic said in the previous episode, it's a car. You learn how to drive a manual or an automatic car. Every car after that's going to be the same: park, reverse, drive, neutral. They're all the same. You know, it's the same thing. The key might be in the different spot, maybe, or it might be push to start. It might be a different key, but it all drives the same. That's all I'm going to say for that one. But next, we're going to go ahead and talk to my dog Eli, and go ahead and give us your vocal chain.
All right. What up, yo? This is kind of my vocal chain has honestly gotten flipped a lot in the last couple months, not last couple months, but like last 5 or 6 months, just from recording with different people, having mixed sessions almost. Right in the middle of that, having mixed sessions, like where I would finish a session and then call Vic or Esteban or someone in and be like, yo, like, what do you guys use on this? And so I started, we all have all done that. We all talk about it, how we get stuff from each other. But
wait, you never told me about the Arvox sauce, so it's a lie. You don't call me and tell me.
It's just a gate.
That's right.
The gate doesn't do anything if you're all right. Anyways.
It's that mix glue.
Yeah. So I follow Vic on the compression, then EQ. I used to EQ first, then compress, but I don't know why I just started to do it this way, and I kind of just kept going with it. I'm looking at my session right now, so if I'm looking off the screen kind of a little bit, sorry about that. But I start off with either the LA2A or the 1176, like we said, because we all got them with our Arrow. A lot of my artists who I work with but have a little bit higher, like a soprano almost, like voice range. So I use the SE version, which is if you have it, it's like the white or silver version. I don't know if it's special edition. I'm not sure exactly what SE stands for. But it's just a little bit brighter. I forgot who told me, but if you change them in and out, you'll actually see that the difference between the regular 1176 and the SE is a bit brighter of a tone. I use that, and then I use the F6, just like Trunks, to do a little bit of subtractive and take some stuff out. Again, Janara was pointing it out, being really subtle with your subtractive or additive EQ is kind of the key, because I did it a lot in the beginning. I'd be like, oh, like this is a really bad frequency, I don't like it. And I take out like 5 or 6 dB, and then out of nowhere, my entire low end is like gone in the mix, or like their mids are just like kind of faint. Like then I started to realize it's just a few dB, or not. Sometimes I take out half a dB. Like it's all, of course, mix to mix. It's whatever you're doing. Not trying to stay too long on one thing, but Then this is what I've used since the beginning: RVox into Ssl Eq. I use Ssl Eq on every single vocal chain just because I like how it makes, the frequency sound. I like how it's not too harsh. Even with adding, sometimes I'll add like 3 dBs at top end, 2 dB in the 10K region, and it doesn't seem to like, it's just crisp. It's just a nice top end on it. Then I use a de-esser, the Waves de-esser. After that, like I said, it's kind of interchangeable. Sometimes I'll use the LA2A. Sometimes I'll use even the DBX. I like the DBX. I've tried, what's the 2500 Vic, right? It's the 2500, the API. I haven't used it. I've looked at it. I don't think I've used it on any mixes yet. But like we've all said, it's tools. It's whatever you like, whatever sound you like, whatever tone you like, whatever you're looking for. The LA2A is pretty strong. Like if you get up into the 50, or if you get to like 60 in dB or in the reduction or the output, you're going to be taking a lot out of you're going to be compressing your voice a lot. So some of those are really, really extreme compression. So just be, chill with it. Recently, this is what I picked up from Vic. This is a little sauce, the API 560. I love it. The top end and even the low end, adding low end on that is, I think, a bit warmer than the Ssl EQs. I used to use the Ssl. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say I put Vic onto API.
Okay, well, I got...
No.
We're not having this argument now.
Lou Diaz put me onto the API.
No. We're not having this argument right now because I've heard about the 560 from both of y'all in different scenarios, so I don't even know. Regardless, everyone knows about the API, but there are different...
The API himself told me.
So... anyways, regardless of who put me on, one of my podcast mates put me on this. Then I DS twice. I used a Renaissance. I used to use a Renaissance de-esser only. I only used to use one. But like Vic said, I just roll off the highs, like super highs, like 16. Sometimes if they have a lower voice, I'll go to 14K and just take the threshold down a little bit. But I don't try to do too much with that. That one is just to keep it crisp. This is something I noticed both of them missed, but used in their mix. This is a little bit of sauce, and we are going to put it out for you. Everyone knows about it, of course, if you are engineering or if you've been doing this. But center from Waves is one of your best friends on a vocal bus.
I still got to use it, actually. You and Trunks use it like hella good. Everyone uses it, but like,
you just got to find it. You just got to find it. And I don't use it on every mix. It's just when I need a little bit more push, either to be in the mono or like if I want to spread them a little bit.
I don't even use it for vocals. I use it for the master sometimes, or the beat.
Wait, and this is what we're talking about. Everyone uses it differently. What's up?
So you treat it just like you treat the beat?
Trunks or me?
No, you. Like how it's like in a beat, like you center the low end and so I'll bring up if I just seems like the vocal is kind of getting like lost in the mix a little bit, I'll just bring it up a little bit in the center and just kind of push it just so it sits in front of the beat just a tiny bit, like it's sitting on it. Me and Vic one time were talking about it when he came back from class, when one of his teachers was kind of explaining it a little bit deeper, and we're still all learning, like we say all the time. We're always learning. So I sometimes will do something on center or a different plugin, and I'm like, oh my, like I've been doing it wrong the whole time. And you just learn as you go. Really quick, I wanted to do a few interchangeable things because even though sometimes these are used as sends, I tend to put them on my bus to give the vocal itself a little bit of extra like push sometimes. And depending on who it is or what kind of mix they want. Some people really like rock style mix, like a lot of distortion, or some people want it to have a lot of reverb or be really bright, or like the clean, that clean pop, like Ariana Grande, like Doja Cat style, where it's like super crisp high end. One of them, or I'm just going to throw a few out there. The Manny Moroccan reverb is super good because it has a dry wet knob on it, which I think all reverbs do have dry wet knobs usually, but the Manny Moroccan one, you can be super, super gentle with it and it will like brighten up your entire mix on the vocal. That's the same thing with the Aphex. I think it's Aphex. Yeah, Aphex Vintage Exciter. That's an exciter and it'll kind of just make your vocals pop, I guess, a little bit. I've been using that recently for this one guy's album I've been mixing. Just to kind of push his top in a little bit. And then a lot of people use this for masters or for the beat, but I use the NLS bus sometimes.
I use trim and the drive depending on what I need, but the NLS bus is it's kind of like a sneaker. I kind of think it's like a little like secret. It's not very much. And like we said, all these small things kind of add into like the final mix. You're not trying to make one thing complete the mix. Like everything is going to come together. We're talking about the vocal chain, and you could have a perfect vocal chain, but if your beat doesn't sound right, or if it doesn't sit on the beat right, or if it's too, all these things come into play. So just slowly add stuff up together until you find the right thing and experiment. That's what we've had to do, over the course. And we've only been doing it for so long at this level that we're at right now. So like we always say, just experiment and, don't follow in our footsteps exactly. This is just kind of like a reference, especially it's like everything can be taken out. Like we've been saying this entire episode, everything is just a tool that's interchangeable with another tool. It's just how you use it and what you want to use it for. But yeah. There's my vocal chain.
Very good, very good. Vic, were you leaning in because you had something to say?
Yeah, I was gonna add something. I was gonna just throw some free sauce for everybody out there.
All right.
So, like one thing I highly suggest, I've learned it from the teachers, and I've seen a lot of people do it at the studios. We intern work, stuff like that. If you're doing a 2-track recording, and you have, well, I'm not gonna say you have, but
explain what a 2-track is, please, for those people who don't know.
You are bringing in a beat from YouTube or anything, and you just import it into Pro Tools, and it is a stereo file. It is a 2-track because left is 1 track and right is the other track. So summed together is the 2-track stereo. So if you're doing that, it's hard to mix vocals into that because it's always going to sound like your vocals are on top, not mixed in. And I learned this a lot from the teacher. A good way to like kind of make it seem mixed. Find like 4 the loudest frequencies in the voice of the vocal, like the points where it is the loudest, the most present frequencies in that person's voice, and then sidechain it to the beat. And then every time that artist talks, the beat gets ducked in those certain frequencies, and only like 1 or 2 dB. 2 is like pushing it because it's not too much, but it's pushing that down, and it's bringing the lead presence of the person's frequencies in his vocals up, so it's sounding like it's more blended in together. Like it really does make a difference. Like if you guys do it and like solo it off and off, like you can see the difference. And then another thing I was gonna say is like how everyone else was saying for the EQs, like you don't have to go too much. And then when you're doing compression before the EQ, the reason why I do it is because when you compress before the EQ, sometimes certain compressors will bring out certain frequencies or will duck certain frequencies. So sometimes it'll do some of the subtractive EQ for you in a type of way. We'll talk more, but there's.
I mean, that was all right. I understand what you're trying to say, but at the same time, no, it doesn't matter. It's just what you learned first. I just, literally the reason why is because I was my first year at school being a mixing engineer. My teacher, who's been doing it for a long time, says he does it like that, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it like that, because I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do it like that because he told me like that, and that's how I did it.
It's all preference, like it's all preference.
That's all it is, really. So like Eli and Vic both compress before they should do a subtractive EQ, and what we all mean by subtractive EQ, if you don't know, is basically just taking out the low end of the vocal so that way it doesn't interfere with the low end of the beat. And then also, so it's not like muddy and kind of, you get that, like, it kind of, what it does is kind of get rid of the rumble maybe of your room, or like something on the acoustics of your bedroom or home studio, whatever you have, like it's always good to roll that off. You're not rolling up to like 300-400 or something, you're rolling maybe like up to 65, 70. If you're Eli, you're rolling like 20 because he has like a deep voice and he's like at 32 hertz, like a subwoofer. No, but I mostly like on Jannar, when I like did his, I usually go to like 82 or something, 83 I think what I did. And but for mixing this podcast, I'm not gonna lie, I go up a little higher. I go up to like maybe, no, I actually don't. I stay pretty low because I think automatically I think we're doing this on Zoom, so I think Zoom automatically. Well, I've checked the frequency on Pro Tools, and I think it cuts it off at 16K. So it doesn't go past 16K, and I think it doesn't go under 100. I think, or like 80 or 60 something. So I only roll off to like 80. So I want to let everybody know that what subtractive EQ was, and then also around 200 to 300. I think around 200 to 300, 200 to 300 and like 50, 375. That's where like the mud is at, basically. So like if you were to go there and then boost that really high, it sounds like you're talking to your, and like the way my teacher explained it was like put your hand over your mouth and talk. That's like what it sounds like. So that's what I would always, that's what I yeah, so he said that's what it sounds like, and you don't want that because it doesn't sound crisp or clean, and it messes up like everything that you're doing with the whole mix of the song. So, take that out around 200 to 350, sound where it sounds the most trashiest, and then take that down. And I'm not going to tell you a dB range because you're going to figure that out on your own about what sounds clear to you. Like go ahead, take down a little bit, and then take it off. Like take the input off or the plugin off, and then plug it back, and then turn it on, and then see what it's actually doing. Listen to it and train yourself, and be like, you know what? It's actually making it clearer. It's making his vocals kind of come out more on the beat. Or you know what? I'm taking too much out, and it's not doing anything but making the beat louder or something. So play around with it, and you'll start to learn where your dB, how much you're going to start subtracting from the vocal. And then also add in like make the vocal bright. Actually, I'm talking about subtracting. My bad. But go ahead, Mars. Janar?
I was about to say, can I just add something to what you just said? So you know how is that super loud or what?
No, you're good.
All right, cool. And another reason why you want to do subtractive EQ first before you do anything else is because like if you have the luxury of being in like a super sound treated room, like a lot of the times you won't have to do much to make your voice sound the way you want it to sound. Like by cutting out those low frequencies, it in a sense you're boosting your highs, like, because it just brings that clarity out. So, but if you do that first, if you boost high frequencies or frequencies that you think you want before you do anything else, then you're just going to make the mix dirtier in a sense. Like you're going to put frequencies in there that when it's time to put that compressor on and like you start to turn up the drive on certain things, you're going to make it unpleasing. So like just by cutting out those low frequencies first, like you'll start to hear the clarity that you want, and then that way you could be more subtle when you start to add those high frequencies.
Very good. That's a very good explanation there, Janar. A lot of people may be wondering, yo, where's Coach? Where's Coach? Oh my God, where's Jordan? Yo, where's Coach Koopa? The reason why Janar is actually talking, because they actually came over just because he hangs out with us sometimes. And Jordan is mostly known to be a producer, not engineering. So like, he'll get his time to shine, right? Not just not yet. And because Janar was here, so I was like, might as well get some input from another art. We're getting an input from an artist who records himself and mixes himself. So I know a lot of people out there listening might have the same scenario. You want to know like what it's like to record yourself, mix yourself, and stuff like that. So there you go. You got someone who's actually physically really doing it, and doing it well. Someone who's like recording themselves and mixing themselves. So I think that gives a lot of people inspiration that like, hey, I can do it too. It's not, I don't have to go to a studio like and pay $100 an hour or $75 an hour, wherever it's based, and get recorded and mix and I could do it all myself. So I think that's really good. But I think to end the podcast here is we're all gonna just talk about, I guess, our favorite EQ and our favorite compressor. So I'll just go ahead and say my favorite EQ is honestly, dang. Now that you guys brought up the API, that was my goat. That was my plugin right there. I'm gonna go ahead and say the API 550B. Because I think that's the parametric one. If I'm correct, I think so. So that I think my favorite EQ is 550B, just because that was like when I first ever discovered it.
I think it's actually the 550A because the B has the knobs. I think unless it's the 560, unless it's the 5, maybe it is the 550B or 550. I don't know because I only use the 560B. I just use the 560B, so I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm talking about the one that has the sliders.
No, I know what it looks like. I'm saying I don't know if it's the 550A or 550B. because I don't use either the 550 series. That's what I'm saying. I don't know, but
I don't have my Pro Tools session pulled up, but I believe it's the 550, whatever. It's the one with the sliders. I like that one because I saw it on I think a Lou Diaz video, and I just started using it, and I was like, wow, I love the way this sounds on like vocals. So I'll put that's my probably favorite EQ is the API, and then for compressor, honestly, I'll go ahead and say a basic answer. I'm gonna say the LA2A or the 1176 Bluey, one of those two. But I said I had to pick one. I'm gonna go with the LA2A. That's what I'm gonna go. And then we're gonna go ahead and actually the LA2A, the regular one, the SE, or the 1176 has the SE, right? Or the LA2A has no. I think the LA2A has one as well. But I'm just talking about the regular LA2A. And so that's for me. Let's go ahead and go with Eli. Your favorite EQ and your favorite compressor.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just stick with what I was saying because I think it is I think it's my favorite EQ for both addition and subtractive EQ because like I can do both of it. I like to add with the API, but I can do it with SSL. So I'd say SSL because all around I just like how it sounds. I just like the tone of it. Compressor. I mean, when we're in the box, I think my go-to is almost always the 1176. For tracking, I like the 1176. For post, I like it. I don't use it too much for parallel. For parallel compression, I use the SSL compressor or the H comp, like you were saying. But I think the 1176. I also like the Manly compressor, but that's like outboard gear. Like when we get to work in the studios, I like the Manly stuff. I like the API.
You only pick one.
No, I know. I'm saying my go-to is definitely 1176, but there's a lot out there. So SSL and 1176 are my EQ and compressor.
All right, sounds good. Jannar, your favorite EQ and your favorite compressor to use.
All right, so honestly, I don't think I can answer that because I don't think I've been doing this long enough, like engineering and having experimented with a lot of different EQs and compressions to really pick one. Because right now, like when I go through EQs, I'm listening for the same stuff with no matter what EQ I use. So, but so far I've used the API. I've used the what is it called with the waves, the HQ or what is it? The HEQ.
Yeah, the HEQ is solid. Yeah.
So I've used that. I like the way that sounds like right off the bat because every plugin has their own sauce. Whether as soon as you turn it on, like you don't have to do anything to it. It automatically like gives you the certain sound. So right now I'll use the HEQ for my EQ. And for compression, I'll use the LA2A for my like immediately on my preamp with my preamp to print to the vocal like right away. And I'll probably put like a H comp for the compression just because like I have all the options of the output, the release attack and everything. Some compressions don't give you that option to like adjust your release and make it slow or fast. So yeah, I'll stick with the H comp for that.
All right. And just to see if if you guys aren't watching on YouTube, his camera's off. So I want to just check in with Vic real quick. Vic, are you there? He's probably not there. It's all right. We don't need, you guys don't want to hear what he has to say anyways.
How much time's left on this?
I don't know, but I think it's still going. We're recording. It's all right. We're about to end it off. It's all right. So this has been the Rough Mix podcast, and today's episode was about how I would say this is mostly for like rapping. I feel like like rap song. I mean, we don't have. Well, me and Vic kind of started off with like a pop singer. We got to go in that realm for a little bit, but no, for this, our chain was pretty much for rap artists, so we're not saying this is only for rap artists. All the same concept of what we're doing kind of goes through all genres, like the same like concepts of rolling off the low end, like the basics, the principles, the fundamentals. Those are all going to be in every single song, like no matter what. but just what we've been discussing over, you know, like this is more our experience is heavily influenced on rappers and hip hop. So that's for us. And I hope that any of this helped you guys, you know. And also, Jannar will have his own episode in the future. Actually gonna have his own. Well, actually, we could probably do another episode of you. We'll have no. That'll be all in the interview. Never mind. So that'll just be. We're gonna give Jannar an interview. So, but because in the future, we're trying to do is interview artists that we know locally, and bring them on and have them and interview them because a few of them went to our school. So we want to talk about pretty much artists that we know personally, bring them on the podcast, talk to them, interview them, ask questions. That's for the future. But for this episode, it's been the Rough Mix Podcast. You can follow us on all social media down in the description below. Ask any questions on any of our Instagram social medias, DM us. You want any future episodes discussed or about topics or anything like that, anything that you want questions on this video, let us know in the YouTube comment section. And that's it. It's been the Rough Mix Podcast, and we're out.
Use the sauce.